Welcome to the Greek Scientists Society Second Symposium. Discover the way a Greek scientific paradigm may develop an innovation ecosystem 5.0.
Χρόνια βιοιατρική. Είμαστε εδώ για την υγεία όλων.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. It's time for our third panel of the day to discuss whether Greece should invest in a digital innovation ecosystem in the life sciences. If so, what should this ecosystem aim for, and what would it look like? Time to introduce our first speaker of the day for this panel, Dr. Katia Karalis, who is the Executive Director of Regeneron Genetics Center.
Next, we have Professor Achilleas Gravanis, who is Professor of Pharmacology of the Medical School at the University of Crete, and also researcher at the Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology at the Foundation of Research and Technology. We
have Dr. Simos Simeonidis, who is a Senior Biotechnology Analyst at Rodman & Renshaw LLP and is currently a faculty member at the Harvard Medical School.
Finally, we have Dr. George Pavlakis, who is Chief of the Human Retrovirus Section, Vaccine Branch at Center for Cancer Research of the National Cancer Institute. And our moderator for this session is Dr. Panteli Theocharous, who is Global Vice President, Cell and Gene Therapy Strategy Lead at PPD, and member of the Greek Scientific Society Scientific Advisory Board. As a senior level industry executive in prior Chief Marketing Officer roles and a cancer immunotherapy expert, Dr. Theocharous has led multiple hematology-oncology assets in clinical development, including innovative immuno-oncology technologies. So, Dr. Theocharous, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introductions. As we just gather here in terms of a very illustrious panel, which I'm honored to be moderating today, I also wanted to just give a little bit more attention and also acknowledge the opportunity for the Greek Scientists Society to really give us this way of really engaging and thinking kind of collaboratively about these very important subjects and topics. And I want to acknowledge the organization in that regard, and certainly very proud to be here today. I also wanted to just give a little bit of a bio background to some of our esteemed panel members, because I think it reflects and it represents what we're trying to achieve today. And I think the substance is important for us to understand and to appreciate. So Dr. Pavlakis has extensive research and development experience in molecular biology, virology, and immunology. He has directed both basic research and clinical development projects based on his pioneering research achievements. He developed the first mammalian cell production of mature human growth hormone, a successful biotechnology product. This was one of the first licensed biotechnology products using mammalian expression technologies together with Genentech's TPA. He's also developed important technologies and insights used widely, including codon and RNA optimization methods that have found wide applications in biotechnology, gene therapy protocols, and many vaccines, including all adenovirus vaccines and many nucleic acid vaccines, DNA vaccines for HIV, providing strong and long-lasting immunity, CACs, lipid formulations for nucleic acid delivering humans, strong fluorescent GFP mutants that are in wide use in biology. His studies have also provided new insights in the biology of several viruses and have aided the development of diagnostic and therapeutic procedures. His work has also led to the development of innovative biotechnology drugs and therapeutic procedures, and he presently works on cancer immunotherapies and vaccines, as well as on HIV and coronavirus vaccines. He's a member of several professional societies, including the American Society for Clinical Investigation and the American Association of Physicians. He's a highly cited researcher, has authored more than 250 publications, and is inventor of more than 70 US and international patents licensed to more than 30 pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. He has been elected Fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, and it's an absolute honor and a pleasure. Good afternoon to you.
Well, good afternoon.
Let me now turn to Professor Gravanis. And again, I think the bios are really inspirational, and this is where we really need to kind of focus our efforts to really aspiring to ensure that we allow science to behold in that particular regard. So Achilleas Gravanis is Professor of Pharmacology, Medical School, University of Crete, researcher at the Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, fourth, and affiliated research professor, Center of Drug Discovery, Northeastern University, Boston. He served as member and chairman of many research committees of the European Union, as member of the Fellowships Committee Federation European Biochemical Societies, FEBS, as chairman of Life Science Committee, National Council of Research and Technology, and as a member of the board of Hellenic Foundation of Research and Innovation. Co-founder and scientific advisor of biotechnology spin-offs, which is very, very relevant to our discussion today, including BioNature Limited and ReNeurocell Limited. Affiliated principal investigator, Emulate spin-off of Harvard University. Also a venture partner of VC Big Pie. He's published 155 papers in PubMed. His research group is developing novel synthetic compounds, including agonists of neurotrophin receptors with neuroprotective and neurogenic properties, and potential applications in therapeutics of neurodegenerative diseases. Additionally, his group is focusing on 3D microscaffold bioengineering and neural stem cell technologies to develop neuroimplants for spinal cord injury and neurobiosensors for drug discovery and screening. Welcome to the discussion today.
Good afternoon to everybody.
Last but by no means least, Katia Karalis is a graduate of the Athens Medical School with extensive basic and translational research experience in academic institutions, but also biotechnology companies both in Greece and in the US. Currently, Katia is executive director at the Regeneron Genetics Center in New York, leading the team that leverages human genetics for drug development. Before that, Katia has been the EVP of Emulate Inc., a spin-off from the Weiss Institute at Harvard Medical School, where she led the R&D and commercialization of the organs on chips platform for drug safety, disease modeling, and precision medicine applications. She has also been a research A, full professor level, leading the developmental biology section of the Biomedical Research Foundation of the Academy of Athens, and assistant professor of medicine leading the endocrine immune interactions research group at the Boston Children's Hospital, Harvard Medical School. Katia is a Helmholtz Fellow and has led many research efforts funded by NIH, international foundations in Europe, and the Greek Secretariat for Research and Technology. She has spearheaded several industry and academia collaborations, as well as biotech and biopharma partnerships with international organizations. I welcome you all to this discussion today. And I think, as I'd mentioned, it was important to really illustrate the bios and the backgrounds of each of our speakers today, because we have to aspire to achieve what has been achieved by these highly recognized and respected scientists within this particular sector. So I welcome you all, and let me just, start by setting the scene for our panel today. And I think based upon what we've heard in previous discussions and previous panels, we can build upon that. Let's be provocative, let's be realistic with regards to history and case studies and experiences, and let's be bold in what we can share with our audience today. So as we think about, should Greece invest in a digital innovation ecosystem in life sciences, and what should that ecosystem aim for? Certainly in my experience of being in sort of drug development for more than 25 years, and certainly with a focus on the patient, our focus on life science in today's global ecosystem of innovation, where we are all digitally connected internationally, we observe, I would say, specific regions and countries that may be focusing on different technological areas. I think what's important for us today is to really think about the belief that, of course, Greece and Cyprus should focus on the life science as a sector, as a number one priority. And many of our academics worldwide are leaders in the life science sector. And to add, I think professionals of Greek and Greek descent are successful leaders within both the pharmaceutical and the biotech sectors. And with this in mind, which are the areas of next generation digital innovation within the ecosystem, and what should we focus on? And how will we manage to excel in these areas? I think those are the sort of the areas that we want to focus on. And maybe I can just sort of pose the first question of our session. And of course, this is a collective approach, but how do we break into these new frontiers? And how do we provide our diaspora with almost a jump start, an accelerator, where we garner the sort of the support of government and other simultaneous processes, thinking about venture capital, thinking about funding and talent, as we've discussed before. And I think that's maybe one of the areas and the themes that we can focus on, at least in the very first instance. And let me at least kind of pose the question to Achilleas, maybe to you, with comments from George and with Katia as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pantelis, for this introduction. Very generous, actually, introduction. I'm very happy to discuss with this matter with long-lasting friends who know each other for many decades. So, and I think that we have homogenized part of our thinking regarding how we can work on innovation and research in Greece. First of all, I'm going to make some general statements. I may repeat some comments I've heard from the previous panels, but I think it's very important to start the discussion by just, undermining these aspects, actually. Greece has to invest in excellence, meritocracy, and extroversion. It's not obvious. Most of our universities and our research centers do not perform excellently in these three very important, actually, aspects of research, of modern research. I think that my experience for the last 30 years in Greece convinced me that we have to invest not in institutions, but in people. We need success stories, and I think we need people that can manage to bring in Greece and Cyprus success stories. The second very important comment I have to make is we must focus in interdisciplinary, ambitious ideas, targeting difficult health problems of international caliber, vision the international market and not the Greek market. Invest in collaborative projects between diaspora and local scientists, advance and facilitate technology transfer and brain gain. Local VCs must proceed in joint ventures with international ones, mobilize investors from diaspora, and lobby for new taxation and investment in innovative technology in these two countries. Success stories publicized internationally must be taken by diaspora, academics and investors. Organize pitching events in internationally competitive life sciences market areas. And I will specify a little bit what I've said before in the life sciences sector. First of all, I will focus on the areas of life sciences, research and innovation that have a strong information computed technology applications. Nutraceuticals, new formulations, advanced therapeutics such as mRNA, cDNA vaccines, cell therapies, biomedical materials and devices. These are areas in Greece and Cyprus with very successful, actually, young and very experienced researchers with a good international collaborative presence, and including diaspora. Advanced infrastructure and logistics in clinical trials, in collaborative studies with hospitals, EOF, and medical societies, Greek and international medical societies. There are actually very successful small countries like our countries, which managed to have a very successful, actually, infrastructure for clinical trials. I'm thinking about the Czech Republic. Cluster, spin-offs, and startup technology hubs as joint ventures between Greek, Cyprus states, and the private sector, including banks. Organize collaborative projects with companies and academics from technologically successful small countries. We have many examples: Israel, Belgium, Holland, Scandinavia. Inseminating good practices from these countries in Greece and Cyprus. Publicized efforts, success stories in Greece and Cyprus to stimulate interest in academic, society, and patient associations. I think these are the most important to me aspects of advancing innovation and research in our country, and an experience that came out to me for the last 30 years, trying to do research in a very actually difficult environment like Crete. I went in Crete 30 years ago without any tradition for research. We were obliged, to find funding from international sources, competitive grants, and try to establish ourselves with, our labs and our PhD students and our postdocs with minimal funding from local sources. And I think the experience I got from all these 30 years trying to strangle with my, colleagues, younger colleagues and more experienced colleagues in Crete is summarized through all these aspects I've mentioned. And one thing that we have to keep always in mind for Greece and Cyprus is extroversion. I mean, we have to be constantly in contact and collaboration with people internationally. And of course, the Greek diaspora will contribute a lot for that. So I will finish, Panteli, with this comment and at your disposal for further discussion.
Thank you, Achilleas. Before I turn to George, Katia, for some of your thoughts on this one, and we have a couple of other questions that we want to be able to, to probe and to stimulate discussion. I think you're absolutely right, and certainly, in my experience of clinical research, we formulate the foundation and the baseline, and we have these raw materials, and we have this pool of talented students of very high caliber, young scientists with optimism and scientific vision, the right behaviors and the right mentality. But maybe let me take a pause, and George, your sort of thoughts and comments with regards to that particular question.
Well, that particular question being how to integrate diaspora or how to improve things in Greece, I think that I would like, inspired by the previous discussion in the excellent panel before us, I think that the people there went back and put some basic questions. So they talked about education, about in general, the structures that are needed to achieve what we want. But I want to just try to answer in first approximation the basic question: should Greece invest in biomedical sciences? In thinking about that for many years, I think that the obvious question for me is the answer for me is follow the money. And to be relevant, research and development has to get connected to the Greek society, and Greece spends lots of money in defense and medicine, huge expenditures. So both in defense and medicine, there are tremendous needs all over the place. The digital age and other developments, they pose new opportunities and new duties actually for the society and to follow. And I must say that sometimes it's not obvious to me that Greece is improving. I think that in many areas it loses ground compared to other countries. So defense and medicine, biomedicine have tremendous opportunities. And the digital age obviously creates many, many more, as we all understand. So there is another reason that biomedicine, to me, it has a huge number of niches that create opportunities for a new effort to focus with intensity in some specific areas or niches that have not been served so far internationally, and gain advantage by concentrating power there. But to do all these things, as I think that the beautiful discussion of the previous panel said, we need some prerequisites, and we need an ecosystem. So to create this ecosystem, you need the human capital, which when we talk about high-tech endeavors like we try to do here, human capital is number one, but you need infrastructure and incentives. And I think that Greece is wanting in all of these things. And I see that as the creation of an ecosystem, a cycle of interactions that goes from the human capital that now is created in Greece. For example, I heard the proposal before that Greece can generate academic departments and focus, for example, on artificial intelligence. Now, I believe that Greeks can excel in that and many other things. But if you have that without an ecosystem, we will see again, instead of brain gain and economic also interest, these created skillful workers without the ecosystem to go to continue to live and go to MIT and other places and benefit other ecosystems, which can use them much more appropriately if the Greek ecosystem is not developed. So I see that as an interactive circle that somehow, when you start spinning, it starts spinning upwards and create a spiral of improvement. And that's not easy, in my opinion, and that's why I think in many, many areas has not happened in Greece. So we need to just try to find ways to jumpstart the system. I think somehow the successful places, they have created a nucleus for a jumpstart. In many places, this happened because of government incentives like tax breaks and grants, etc., etc. And the other way is to have a nucleus of some specific technologies, like it happened in the Silicon Valley, to be concentrated in one place and generate and become the engine of further development. In Greece, for example, I would say that many attempts for jump starts in the past have failed, and part of the reason is that actually the Greek, whatever ecosystem exists, does not always want to cooperate. As it mentioned in previous panels, maybe they don't understand or define, let's say, innovation and research the way that we mean it in our discussion today. So an example, for example, of a potential jumpstart in Salonika right now could be the Pfizer hub that is created on specific area. If it's big enough and sustained enough, it may create the beginning of an ecosystem that can help, let's say, that region to move forward. But my thinking is that without the development of an ecosystem, we don't go anywhere. I could discuss some of my experience for many, many years now, on and off. I started with in 1981 making a first symposium in Washington, D.C., here, where a lot of Greek scientists gathered to address the point how to introduce biotechnology in Greece. And actually, a top-down approach at that time is that the Greek government, 1981-82, I think, they created the first biotechnology state company in Greece, BioElas. My late friend John Vournakis was the first CEO, and that was just a bureaucratic undertaking that had a beautiful villa in Psychiko and a great infrastructure, and did absolutely nothing except to produce salaries for some government functionaries that they went on to become ministers, but without any real ecosystem. These kinds of things, top down, they suffer. The bottom up things suffer too, because they don't have enough support and assistance to thrive. And of course, I'm aware of a lot of efforts of Jumpstart. Professor Makios was in a previous meeting, and he has done a tremendous service to Greece with his presence. And there are, I don't want to be negative, there are success stories, but these success stories did not thrive like Israel, because the next step was missing. So the government and industry incentives or interactions are not there. The financial instruments are not there, and the tax and regulatory environment is not there. It's actually very prohibitive. And Greek education is not connected and towards innovation. So there are, all these are impediments. So what does Greece has to what are the advantages? I would say if we don't take care of the number one, the practicality of the ease of doing business, which is number one, we're not going to have an innovative infrastructure that will take advantage of the beautiful opportunities that there are there now that Greece is part of Europe. So number one to me is an ecosystem that to take care of the number one requirement, make business easy, take care of business. And of course, education that is going down instead of up has to be looked at. It has to be connected. And that takes a tremendous amount of effort to change mentality of a sector of the society that does not want to join. So there is a lot to be done. I think that there is lots of negatives, but the hope has to stay there. And the idea is to try to put together successful or more and more successful attempts for a functioning ecosystem.
Thank you, George. Yeah, I think you really bring up some really important points here. I like the sort of the construct, as you were saying, jumpstart. How do we kind of build on sort of the history, the pragmatism? Of course, we know that there are challenges. I think, Achilleas mentioned a number of stakeholders within the ecosystem that we need to be able to, I think, collate and connect in some ways. And it is a complex ecosystem. We're trying to navigate it together. But I think when we talk about life science, for me, it's about the patient, and you both mentioned some innovative technologies, cell therapies, immunotherapy, gene therapy, cancer vaccines, and other vaccine approaches. We have the opportunity, and I'd like to hear, Katia's viewpoint on this as well. The ecosystem
I'm sorry to interrupt. I should try to just briefly address this. There are immense opportunities with the digitization of Greek society that finally is actually taking place and actually is embraced by the population because of success stories. And they love that bureaucracy is visually becoming a little better and a little more effective. The vaccination also paradigm, which is in healthcare delivery, is a great example that opened up some minds and showed the Greeks that you can do tremendous things. What you mentioned is actually a tremendous area of improvement that can happen in many, many, many sectors and many, many subsectors of the healthcare. As I mentioned, this is a tremendous expenditure and a tremendous opportunity for applied things all over the place, and to give work to a lot of people, young people, programmers, and anything else. I'm sorry for the extra intervention, but I think that that's something that's very important.
I think you're right, and I'll make one comment and then hand over to Katia for her viewpoints. But I think you're absolutely right. I've been in the cell and gene therapy space for many, many years, and when we think about complexity within the ecosystem, there could also be opportunities for thinking about this from an engineering perspective, as we think about sort of the supply chain, the cold chain, and the automation that's going to be necessary. So we have a framework, we have a baseline that we can build upon. And do we aspire to something that is almost kind of small, high-tech life science hub? Because I think the ecosystem, as we were saying, is a complex one. But these are almost kind of it's satellites around a very specific hub of activity. And how do we then bring some degree of practicality to making that a realization? But that's just my personal viewpoint. Katia, just some thoughts from your side on this particular area of discussion.
Yes, a lot has been said by the previous speakers, and of course from the in the previous panels. There is not much difference in what each one of us will say. It is rather point of view from different part, if you wish, of this equation. And we all know the history and we know what are the needs and the times that we live that provide information on anything that we want to learn about. Helps, I think, for people to understand what is the value of investing to your people. Because what we are asked to do is how can we do this jumpstart, invest and have trust and confidence to our people that they can drive our countries to the next era. And there are a lot of reasons that we feel comfortable doing that, like the successes of local scientists in Greece, but also abroad. That means that the training that we have, and I speak here as someone who has trained in addition to other nationalities, Greek scientists in Greece and in Boston. And I think that there is no question that we have the material because of, it is not that Greeks are smarter than other people, than other nations, it is that our education is tough from the beginning, from the early years. And I know that there are some changes lately. I hope that this will be back on track. And we will continue to have this rigorous education around understanding of the principles and application of science. All of this allows our scientists, enables our scientists to go to the best institute of the world, the most competitive, and not only expand their training, but also contribute, as has been, we have a lot of proofs of that. So this is one part, and someone could argue that the very good ones will always be very good anywhere. So that means that they are very good also in Greece. So what is missing, and we have not achieved this? We have, of course, success stories. Is the success story 1, 2, 3 the aim? I don't think so, because it is like in an education system that when you have the top, the 1%, if you wish, even less of this, of students will make it anywhere, even if there are no schools, nothing, they will make it. They will find a way, particularly in our times, to make it. My question is, can we leverage the material that we have, that is from good to very good, in addition to excellent, and support the effort of the country? And for this reason, they cannot be alone. We have excellent educators, we are in the digital area, right? They are all, I know so many students from Greece that are enrolled in international courses, that the knowledge is there. What is missing is, first of all, trust in innovation, not only as an article or as in the Sunday's paper, or maybe in TV, in the television, but also in a discussion, but also trust in innovation that will bring jobs and will bring also not only jobs, but I think this piece that every scientist who comes from Greece needs in life, not this continuous agony. Will this be a fertile area for me to work? Will I be disappointed at the end of 20, 30 years of career, or I will still feel this, if you wish, thirst for continuing like we all have experienced where we work? And I think this is something that goes beyond the investments that will require these very visible success stories. It is a long journey. It's going to take time, but at each point, I think, of this journey, we can have some products, if you wish. But we should not aim for everything. I've heard Achilleas, and he summarized beautiful all that is needed. The question is also, realistically, could we come up, not us, could we help come up with a timeline, if you wish, or a plan that will go for realistic and also for non-realistic, just the dream, just go beyond any borders, take all the risks, but all these efforts should be in parallel. So the success in the small, the more realistic, nothing is small in this area, efforts will feed also the very high expectations, the dream aim. So this is my thinking, and I believe, so it is in a way, we have the findings, we have a lot of beautiful papers in the best journals of the world. A lot, I don't know what is a lot, because in this area, even if you fund 100 proposals and you have 3 excellent publications, this is great. If you have 2 success stories, this is great. The funding works. It is not. This is a very risky bet and with little reward, but the little is big. So we have this, we have the human potential. We need to enable this human potential, and also enable with the help of the infrastructure that has been in Greece, exists in Greece now, because we have to admit it, of government investment. We have technology that a lot of institutes, in a lot of our institutes, are really it would take several years to get, or a lot of efforts from a lot of groups to get. We have the technology, we have the potential. We need to publicize more what we are achieving and build on this. And for that, we need a multidisciplinary approach that will start from lobbying to investment, to, marketing. Somehow it is not only what, and also interactions with all of us who are not in Greece, but we are with a lot of different ways also in Greece, and from support also from from the internal capital, if you wish, to do the right strategic business-like steps, I would say, in order to attract from outside. We know Thessaloniki's Pfizer effort is amazing, because, and it was very hopeful actually, and Microsoft for a lot of people. Is it because there is a local interest from Pfizer CEO? Maybe. It is because we have really great potential in this area, and there is a big demand everywhere, and this demand has not been satisfied. We all know that there are positions that are not filled. The CEOs from a lot of companies in Boston late August, they made it, the announcement that they cannot fill the positions. Computational and information technology, it is an area that we have great potential. But this is an investment in Thessaloniki that keeps scientists in their place and provides, in a way, a good example for other companies to come in. How will they come? They need to know where they go, and they need to feel that the risk that they take, also the venture capitals, is somehow a well-calculated risk that will not take them south completely. And of course, if the success is much more than they expected, of course, it is always welcome, but the disappointment is what it counts here. So it has to be a concerted effort from all. That's my, this is my thinking, because we have the human potential.
I think we're all very passionate about the vision and the mission. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And based upon, if we go back to my introduction of the session, it was really about the raw materials that we have in order to build something that's going to be, credible. It's going to be differentiated in that regard. And it may be based upon, technology and the application of some of the themes that we've been discussing today. And we've tried to give very practical examples. maybe just some final thoughts around what does that potential roadmap look like? And I think we've touched upon some really important points around the ecosystem, a potential tech type hub. How do we look at investment? Who are the key stakeholders within this ecosystem? So maybe just some final thoughts around how do we actually translate it to very practical terms? Do we need universities to leverage their tech transfer offices? As we think about, we've all come from very similar backgrounds. We all have some very specific experiences. I come from a very strong biotech background and be part of co-founding a company. And we all have some of those talents and skills. So how do we define the roadmap? How do we look at upskilling? How do we look at opportunity? And again, how do we influence that ecosystem in some ways? Achilleas, maybe I can come to you just, first for your thoughts.
Yeah, I will give two examples to make more clear what I've said in the initial comments I've discussed with you. Diaspora. Albertos Bourla made the difference. He decided to help the ecosystem of Thessaloniki. He knew the ecosystem of Thessaloniki and people. He contacted the government. He found a positive reaction of it. And he started discussing and organizing and designing how he will help his native city, Thessaloniki. And he made it. I think we are privileged and very happy to have many success stories in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies worldwide. If they mimic what Albertos Bourla did, we can start doing small hubs, specific hubs with state-of-the-art technologies like the technology of AI, machine learning, or ICT in specific areas of life sciences. And I will bring into your attention my experience with Big Pie. Big Pie is a venture capital funded by the European Investment Fund and the private sector. And initially, we were very skeptical in going into investing in life sciences because of the lack of experience in Greece and in Cyprus, because it's a very risky investment. But finally, we found people from the diaspora, young scientists in the US, in Europe, that wanted to transfer some of their research experiments and activities in Greece. So we gave funding to them through Big Pie. They've started discussing with their colleagues in Greece. They joined venture with small groups in Greek universities and research centers. And now we have 8 companies, startups, and spin-offs of this type. I would say a very good example of how I find in my mind the way diaspora will make the difference. Pantelis, because I'm so many years in Greece, and Katia also spent lots of her time to establish herself as a scientist in Athens. Yorgos Pavlakis has both, presences. It comes very often in Greece. It has very good collaborations with Greek scientists and clinicians. And I think that they should comment on this type of thinking, not, organizing in a central way, top-down our intervention in the ecosystem, but starting with success stories, very successful and knowledgeable people like Yorgos, like Katia, and bring technology, new ideas, and collaborations in Greece, but on specific areas driven by people that know what they are doing because they have done it many times in their lives. So I would say, to finish my thinking, that instead of going, to organize, Yorgo, a big ecosystem, and you know how difficult it is because you had the experience of the asset, and you spend lots of time, lots of nights and days trying to, with Dr. Krimisis, I was contributing also. I collaborated with you at that moment. So let's think the other way. Let's get in Greece successful, knowledgeable people from the diaspora in the academic area and in the investment area, like Pantelis, for instance, and try to create small success stories and enucleation centers of excellence and innovation from people that they do know what innovation is and commercialization is.
I'm sorry for interrupting again and doing this again. So we just have 5 minutes just to inform you.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you.
Can
George, yes,
I
please.
address a couple of points that Achilleas brought from my perspective? But before, I read a comment in the Scholia that from Professor Mitkas, that says that the Greek universities are doing very well, thank you, and it's absurd to say that they're not good or they're not better than 40 years ago. Because I made some comments. I made some comments on Greek education. We have to. What I meant is that, of course, things move forward for Greek education, but we have to judge that by placing the Greek education and Greek universities in the international environment and relative position. And for example, the PISA evaluations every year of Greek basic education say that Greece is losing ground instead of gaining, which is a tremendous concern. And I do know, obviously, I'm a product of Greek universities, and I do know centers of excellence like in Greek universities that they have nothing to worry or fear from anybody else in the world. But these are, in my opinion, not connected in an appropriate way to provide the jumpstart, to provide the ecosystem that I have in mind so that Greece makes steps forward. And therefore, we are in brain drain, not in brain gain. If we take the yardstick of Israel 20 years or 40 years ago and now, it's day and night. If we take a yardstick of some other countries, from Portugal to anything to Ireland, I think that we will have to assume that there is something missing in Greece, despite the brilliant departments and units that exist. So this is a concern that the ecosystem again does not work. Now, in relation to what Achilleas mentioned before and relating to your question, what are practical things that we can do? Maybe a mental example is to go through what Achilleas had to go through to establish a new biotechnology company in Greece and try to jump all the hurdles. Some of them maybe were also physical hurdles that he had to go through to do his work. And we will see, or I was thinking that if there was somebody from diaspora, let's say, that wanted to go to Greece and try to fit into the ecosystem there and try to start a new company, what do they have to do? They have to deal with the rules and regulations. They have to deal with many different agencies that they are not perfectly coordinated at times. They have to deal with an existing pharmaceutical infrastructure that is not able to look at very, very far away and have a sustained research program that is long-term because they cannot spend a lot of money. So lack of capital, lack of angels, lack of infrastructure and experienced people to integrate this whole effort, there are tremendous impediments. And I think I can find several others. The tax system, the regulatory system, there are lots of issues there that they make the establishment of new high-tech ideas and small companies extremely difficult. So despite that, there are people like Achilleas that they do miracles, and the ecosystem is developing. So the idea here is to just try to identify the problems, not to blame people or systems or the higher education or the universities, but to try to correct them and to make them better.
Yeah, George, again, I think you make some really, practical comments and suggestions there. So thank you. I want to give, the last few minutes to Katia. Katia, maybe some final thoughts from you on this very specific subject as we've been discussing.
Yes, I will follow up on what Achilleas suggested, and because we all know and we all accepted that to build the ecosystem it's going to take time, I would suggest that we should not abandon this effort, but in parallel we can go with the more fast, if you will, short-term efforts, that is to recognize potential successful stories, and like Achilleas mentioned, how Big Pie screens for those, and how it encourages these efforts. But in my mind, this should be multiplied. And here I don't know if it's going to be private or public funding, something just for innovative minds to jumpstart small companies. Here we are missing a speaker that would give us really the expert's opinion, Simos Simeonidis today, but I think that we have enough people in diaspora that are involved in venture capital, and they could help provide the guidelines, if you wish, or all the just support that is needed for these ideas to move into at least the early stages of development. So this is, and this is how also the Greeks and the Cypriots from big pharmaceutical or technology companies could help along the same line, somehow like an advisory board, but advisory for experts, that it is not just to give the rewarding this, but also tell them with the reality, how hard it is, and so the people who decide to go down this road, we really know how difficult it is, and how many also disappointed it bears. And so this is the help I think that diaspora can do, plus of course similar examples like Pfizer. We would all like to see companies, big companies, come up with small hubs in Greece. And something else that from my experience I think it is very important and is greatly missing, it is number one, it is for the IP protection, for the intellectual property protection of good ideas before they get published. There is pressure in the academic world to publish because these are metrics for promotion, for getting grants, etc. But we need to be there early and for IP, because this is in a way for a lot of the work that we are doing, the passport to the next step. And it is a no-no if this does not exist. That's all.
Thank you. I think, again, some very, very practical comments there as well before I hand over to Dimitrios. Just a big thank you from my perspective. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be part of this panel and to moderate the discussion. I think we've come up with some really practical ideas and comments, and hopefully we can translate that to something that's going to be very meaningful for our diaspora moving forward. So let me pass over to Dimitrios and Chrysoula. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Theocharous. Thank you, everyone. Our apologies to the audience, but in the interest of time, we cannot accommodate any more questions at this point. A big thank you to you, Dr. Theocharous, for your contagious enthusiasm and very eloquent moderation. Thank you to our panelists individually, Professor Gravanis, for your very insightful contributions, raising awareness on the importance of connecting with stakeholders and creating regional centers and hubs for innovation. Dr. Pavlakis, for outlining the problem of brain drain and the need to reconsider the allocation of our funding and resources, as Greece is losing ground in the innovation field in terms of life sciences compared to other countries. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Karalis, for reminding us of the publication pressures, of the value of investing to our own people, and for making efficient use of the resources that we have. At this point, it is time to close this panel. We will take a very short break and move on to our final panel for the day. Stay tuned.
Thank you.